Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest, it is a 4-1 fall. Introducing first, from Lithuania, he weighs 123 kilos, the Russian nightmare, Nikita Koloff.
Welcome back to Man Up with Nikita Koloff. Real talk with real men with real stories. And I have in the studio with me today a real man. Boy, he is a man's man. Bishop Larry Jackson. Welcome to the Man Up Show.
Man, good to be here with you, bro. You know that.
It's great to have you here. I mean, you have such a rich history and background, not just with ministry, but just your life journey that I just felt people needed to hear about. And let's dive into that before we talk really kind of about present day and what you're doing now. I mean, you're everything from a book author to an international speaker. You have a thriving church in Charlotte, North Carolina. But give our viewers a little backstory on Bishop Larry Jackson. I mean, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, grew up in Richmond, Virginia, in the heart of Richmond, Virginia, which area on the east side at the time. It's called Church Hill.
Okay.
There were a lot of churches on hills.
Okay.
But it was considered one of the worst sides of town. The east end and the west end were the sides of town that you didn't want to get caught at night.
Okay.
And there's a lot of feuding that went on between the two sides of town. North and south was not that good either, but really, basically, the west end and the east end, they had a lot of feuding going on back in that day. They weren't so much called gangs; it was just neighborhood taking care of neighborhoods.
Okay.
And if you were caught in the wrong neighborhood, and people knew where you were from, you needed to run. You needed to get home fast.
Wow.
So I grew up in that kind of environment. My father and my mother never married, but my mother did marry a man who was my stepfather, and he somewhat forgot that I was there first, kind of thing.
Right.
And as I grew up, he and I would have a lot of feuding within the house ourselves. So it was not that environment, that type of environment that you wanted to be around. It was really volatile at times. So I literally, in an apartment complex where I had 4 apartments in one building, my great-grandmother, and not my grandmother lived in one, my great-grandmother lived in another.
Wow.
And I went upstairs to live with my great-grandmother. Even though my mother and my stepfather was down in this other apartment, I went up there. I said, I'm going to be with my great-grandmother. And so I learned from her and living with her. I literally, Nikita, it's interesting, I literally slept in the same bed with my great-grandma until I was in my teens.
Wow.
Does the exact same bed. She was over there, I'm by the wall, and we sleeping in the same bed because that was all. It was a 3-room apartment.
Right.
You see, back in those days. And
so there's some I can really relate to some of what you're talking about. Now I didn't have a grandmother or a great-grandmother that raised me. My uncle, my grandmother, I spent a lot of time with them, especially in the summer times. But my early formative years, I grew up in what was officially known as the Minneapolis Housing Authority.
Yes.
Well, we affectionately call the projects.
Yeah, the projects. That's right.
Ghettos of Minneapolis, right outside the Minneapolis skyline.
Yeah.
So I can kind of relate to some of your stories. So we got some similarity there. So at what point then did you? When did you kind of break free of that, or kind of get out from under that? Would you say?
Well, it was interesting. Most of it was not like it was such a way that I wanted to run. I played sports.
Okay.
So I was the starting quarterback in high school and all that kind of stuff. So started from junior varsity all the way through my junior and senior year. I was a starting quarterback.
Okay.
So it was interesting. So I was known in the neighborhood, the athlete guy that had the opportunity to get out.
Gotcha.
So I had a lot of guys to watch out for me. Back in that days, if you were an athlete, they took care of you. They didn't want you to get involved in drugs or the fighting and all of that. My uncles and my cousins would actually run me home. And so you're not getting involved in this because you got an opportunity to get out of here. Because
Wow.
I had a good arm and all that stuff.
So sports potentially could have been a real out.
It was.
Became an outlet for you.
Yeah.
We're relatable there too, because eventually, bodybuilding, working out, football for me as well became kind of my go-to. Because I grew up without a dad. My dad left when I was 3. I was the youngest of 4.
Wow.
And we were a product of welfare because my dad didn't financially support the family and that sort of thing. So some real relatability between the two of us. So you've got this. You gravitated to the sports, and did that lead you like into college or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I knew I was recruited heavily, but I knew something about. I knew something about me, and this is what I knew about me. I knew that if I had gone to college where I was recruited, I was going to flunk out.
Okay.
I knew that about me.
Okay.
I knew you will not make it because you're going to go there and you're going to be chasing women and you're going to be doing everything you should be doing. That's not where you should go.
Okay.
And so I literally just walked away from sports and went to Ohio to do electronics. I went to DeVry at the time, way back there, to say, okay, I'm going to go to DeVry. They don't have no sports, no nothing. I have to focus totally on my education.
A career.
Yeah, a career. Because that was what I was going to take. If any school I went to, I was going to take electronic engineering. And so I said, no, I'm not going where I'm going. I knew me.
Wow.
If you know yourself.
Right.
And man, I said, no, I'm going to flunk out if I go to any school.
What a credit, though, to you to recognize that early on and make a decision like that.
Yeah.
So okay, so you're on that path. So at what point, Larry, at what point does ministry come into the picture?
It's interesting because even though I was in the hood, my godparents, they had 3 boys, and so I would gravitate around to their home a lot. I hang out with them, and they said to me, if you're gonna be at our house, you got to go to church.
Okay.
Okay, so nobody in my household was going to church or even thinking about going to church.
Okay.
And they said, well, if you're going to be hanging around here, you got to go to church with us on Sunday. And it was a neighborhood Baptist church up on the corner, and they said, okay, you got to go. So my mother was fine with that. She loved the fact that somebody took some interest in me to take me to church, and I started going to church. So I got introduced to the things of the church world in my youth, in my teens, when I went off to, now it's still when I went off to college, I still didn't have time for all that, But I had that background, sung in the choir, the whole 9, all of that,
okay.
and so I had this background. So when I get back home from college, it's an interesting thing. My great grandmother passed. Bringing me my grandmother passed, and so now I'm back home, and now I have this relationship again with my mother and my stepfather, and I realize in my own life now, boy, if you don't get right, something bad's gonna happen to you. You're gonna do something bad, so I got a little serious about the church world.
And you kind of in your early 20s at this point?
Early 20s, yeah. I got pretty. I said, let me check this out a little closer. Still a heathen. Okay. Don't get it wrong.
you probably, those out in the viewing land, you probably can identify or relate.
That's right.
You're not the only one. But
oh yeah, look, man, look, go to go to the clubs at Saturday night and go to church on Sunday.
Okay.
You don't know anything about that, but
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. You did. What's a club?
Yeah.
Health club?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you're kind of leading, if you want to say, a kind of a double life in a sense there, right?
Yeah. You were living it, man.
In clubs on Saturday night, in the church on Sunday.
That's exactly right. So when all of these people in my life passed, it's interesting. The place that I had to go. This is interesting too, Nikita. When I literally came out of college, I've got a very good job with IBM. Tremendous job with IBM. I was living in Cleveland, working for IBM. They sent me to Chicago to be trained, and so I went to school for IBM in Chicago. At the time, bro, they were paying me my regular salary plus a per diem to go to school.
Wow.
So we were literally making around $6,000-7,000 every 2 weeks.
Wow.
This is crazy money to a kid that's come out of the ghetto that don't know how to handle it. And so I messed up. I just stayed drunk. Didn't, we just blew it on. I met Mr. T.
Okay.
At the Deanbat Club in Chicago way back when he was a bouncer.
Wow.
That's when, and because I stayed in the Deanbat Club all the time.
Yeah.
Because I just blew money. So when I got back home, I went from living in what was at the time called the Wabash Towers in Chicago. Pristine living facility, doorman, the whole nine, to coming back home, living in a house that didn't have lights or running water. I lost everything.
Wow.
My great grandmother said something to me before she died. She says, Larry, when you get low enough, you will call on Jesus. She said, and when you get low enough, he'll be there.
Woman of wisdom.
Yes. And I remember in my bedroom, no lights. And I didn't have any money to get lights. All I had enough money to do was to pay for the rent. Now I went from where I told you I was to
High style, high living.
Yes.
The Ric Flair lifestyle.
Woo!
to the low life.
The low life.
Yeah.
The low life. And I'm in my room and I said, well, this was dumb because again, I come up in church, but I said, if there be a God, if you are there, I need to know. And my room lit with light. Remember, I don't have any lights. And the bedroom was in such a way that there was no light from the outside that was coming in. The room lit up with light.
Wow.
I knew there was a presence in this room that I had never understood in my life.
Wow.
I'm on my face, and I know this is God. So I have that experience in that night. I get up from that place and I call my father, who my father in my teen had become a minister.
No, was this the stepfather?
No, this is my birth father.
He become a minister. Okay.
Yes, and see, he would come into my life every once in a while, but he was not there sustainable. Yeah. So I knew, we had some relationship. So I called him and I said, "Listen, I don't have nowhere to go. Can I come stay with you and my stepmother?"
Never apologize for who you are. Be who God has called you to be, and be boldly.
Hi, Nikita Koloff here, and I am excited to announce the first annual Morning Star Men's Conference, August 25th to the 27th. Our theme this year, Man Up. It's time. And we have a phenomenal lineup of speakers, including NBA All-Star Al Wood, WWE Superstar Lex Luger, Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, David and Jason Benham, the Benham Brothers, Chris Reed, and of course, Dr. Rick Joyner. Let's not forget world-renowned evangelist Frank Shelton. Click the link below and sign up early. You do not want to miss this event.
He said, "I'll talk to your mother and let me call you back." And she said, "Let that boy come here." Now, what I didn't know was God was setting that up. So when I move in there, what does he have? Because I had this experience with this entity in this room that nobody understands. I know it had to be God because I know nothing else was there but God.
Yeah.
And so what happened is he has all these commentaries, he has all these Bibles, he has all this stuff because he's been walking in this way and I don't have any of this.
Wow.
And all of a sudden now I'm there and it's like, oh my goodness, what in the world is this? I'm in the Word every night. Matter of fact, he said to me one day, he says, "Boy, you studying more than me, Well, because I had an experience.
Right, you had that encounter.
You can't take it away.
Yes.
And from that point, I became a radical, if you will. I have really never looked back. The other pieces I met Wellington Boone. and and from there, as many say, the rest is history.
The old cliche, the rest is history, and that it brings up an interesting illustration. I say it all the time. I'm sure you do as well. But when you have the type of encounter you're explaining, I mean, how do you go back? You can't go back from that. You just can't. When you have a genuine, like for the viewing audience out there, when you hear Larry's story, when you have that genuine encounter, you're not going back. It's almost like Paul on the road to Damascus, right?
Yeah.
Paul never went back.
No, you can't.
He only went forward.
Yeah.
Right, and that's not to say that some stumble and fall along the way.
You're gonna have those.
Yeah, right. I mean, righteous man may fall 7 times, but he's gonna get up again, right? And so that's the interesting. So this foundation is being laid in you, and then at what point then did you decide, hey, I'm gonna go into full-time ministry?
Never decided it. He decided it for me.
Okay.
One morning doing praise and worship, Wellington is at the front of the room. I'm a part of his church now, and in that moment, the presence of God comes on me. He looks at me and he starts crying because he sees on me the presence that he remembered that was on him.
Wow.
And I'm a mess. It's like, what is this? It's like, I know I'm being called to ministry at that moment. Because my thing was I would be a singer. Okay, so, I have this little ability to croon a little bit. So I wanted to be a singer. I want to go that path. If I'm going to do anything, let me do the Christian music thing.
You can sing for us today?
No, I'm not.
Okay, all right. Next time. All right,
yeah, so yeah, and so that was my path I thought I was going to take.
Okay.
But no, Lord said, no, that's not the path you're going to take. And he came on me, and for 3 days broke my heart. 3 days. I couldn't get myself together. I couldn't look at people because I could see their need for the Lord.
Wow.
The spirit of evangelism and whatever was on me strong. It was like, goodness, I didn't even have a vehicle at the time. I would ride in the bus to work, and I would have problems on the bus. I'm on the bus crying because I see folk and I see the need that they have in their hearts. And at that time, he wasn't letting me talk to them. He just wanted me to have the heart for them. And it was like my heart was breaking for a generation that I said, you need God. And I got to be the one that bring that to you.
Well, Wellington Boone is certainly a great, I'm sure became a great mentor, a spiritual father.
Yes, no question.
Yeah, and a great mentor. And so that I can sense and see here kind of how that mantle that was on him was passed down to you. And so you go on to just so prominent out there in the world of ministry, from a keynote speaker to promise keepers.
Yeah,
back in the days of Bill McCartney, right?
Yeah, and that's amazing because I had no book. I was not on television. I was not known nationally. I'm in Clinton, North Carolina, in my church in Clinton, North Carolina. There is no earthly reason that I should have been on a stage in front of 20,000 people. I had no box office draw, nothing. God opened that door. Matter of fact, I went to a meeting in Dallas to support Wellington, who was a Promise Keeper speaker. Okay. And the guy there said to me, we asked Wellington to send us some guys that he thought would be good to be on the stage, but I didn't get anything from you. I said, yeah, I missed the deadline. I'm not. I said, I'm good. I'm all right. And this was the guy that was making the decisions.
Right.
And Colin said to me, he said, no, why don't you send me something this week? Just send me a tape and tell me what area you would like to be. I said, okay, I'll send it to you. And I sent it, and he called me back and said, so what area would you like? And we're considering you. What?
Wow.
And that was because, again, you name the names from the Tony Evanses to
right down the line, right?
Evie Hill,
T.D. Jakes.
Matter of fact, they used to put out a booklet. And they put all the speakers' pictures in it. And I was sandwiched in between T.D. Jakes and I was sandwiched in between Crawford Loritz, I believe it was. Crawford Loritz and T.D. Jakes. That's where I was. That's my picture. And my wife looks at the thing and goes, "What are you doing in here?"
Thank you, supportive.
Yes, right, that's right. I said, "I'm a man of God, don't you know?"
Yeah, come on. Hello.
But I understood exactly what she was saying. There was no earthly reason I should have been in there other than the hand of God, and became one of the, if you will,
one of the main speakers.
One of the, one of the noted.
Years and years.
It's unbelievable.
Wow. Well, but God, right? But
God.
and then so you're a book author. I mean, is a particular book, like what would you recommend to the viewing audience today? A particular book that maybe you've written.
Yeah, it's several, but one is The Power is in the Closet. The Power is in the Closet deals with the intercessors finding their ways back into the closet area and praying from a position of secrecy whereby the enemy can't breach. The Lord said to me when I wrote that book, he said, the homosexuals will come out of the closet so you can go in.
Wow.
You see? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, the name of the book is
The Power is in the Closet.
Power is in the Closet.
Yes, it's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon, and I'm sure you have your own website, I'm sure.
I do.
What's your
BishopLarryJackson.com. You can. That's pretty easy.
BishopLarryJackson.com.
Yeah.
And that's just one of several books.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. We've authored right now 19. So
19 books.
Yes.
Well, you
all of them are there on Amazon.
You're starting to rival Rick Joyner.
Yeah.
Who's from Richmond, by the way, as well, right?
He challenged me.
I
I asked him one day. I said to him, I said, "So tell me something, bro. How you write all these books and you do all these journals? You know?" I said, "How you write all this stuff?"
Right.
He said, "I write 1 hour a day."
Wow.
I
There you
said,
go.
"I got it. That's it. That's all I needed to hear." He said, "I write 1 hour a day." He says, and then I'm gone. And I said, "Oh, that's amazing." And so I took that from him.
And a thriving church in Charlotte, North Carolina. Name of the church?
Bethel Outreach International Church on the north side of Charlotte.
North side of Charlotte, Bethel Outreach International
Church. Yeah.
And well, we're almost out of time, and this is the Man Up Show, and of course, Promise Keepers focused on men.
Yeah.
If you took 60 or 90 seconds, Larry, what would you want to say? Like, if you looked into that camera, what would you directly want to say to men today?
I love the fact that Nikita has called this Man Up, because I believe that that's where we must be today. Men must man up. Men must get back to the place that they are now the leaders of the culture, and especially in the church. For too long, we've had women to lead the church, and it is really past time that men would step up to the plate and say, "Look, we're going to be the leaders." I talk to men all the time about the fact that women are taking our children into prayer. They're in prayer meetings and we're not being found. We are the warriors. As a warrior, you have to take your place, not only in your home, but also in your church. Your pastor should not have to find you, should not ever look for you, because you are warriors, and you've got to take on that warrior mentality, because Jesus is called the Lord of hosts, which is the Lord of armies. And so we are those soldiers that need to be there. And I have a ministry, and Nikita knows, called Frontliners. We're bringing men to the front line. I spent some time in Seoul, Korea, and saw that the closer I got to the front lines, or the 38th parallel, the soldiering was more serious the closer I got to the front line than it was in Seoul, which was south of the front lines. And so, men of God, come to the front lines, man up, and be the man of God that God had designed you before the foundation of the world to be. In Jesus' name.
Man, that's a great challenge, Larry. And I love the front lines. I love the concept of the front lines, and just supporting you in that.
Yes, sir.
And challenging men, because I guess what comes to mind, even as you were just challenging men, was the initial MIA, right?
That's right.
Men have been missing in action
for a long time.
And it is a battle. It's a battle.
Yep.
And we're engaged in a war. This is not a cruise ship, it's a battleship.
Yes, sir.
And you have been instrumental in leading men in that charge.
Yes, sir.
I just congratulate you on that, commend you on that.
Bless you.
Bishop Bishop Larry Jackson, be sure to check out his website. If you're in the northern Charlotte, North Carolina area, check out his church. Pick up a copy of his book, go on to Amazon and pick up a copy of his book. Man, such a pleasure and joy just to have you on the Man Up Show.
It's such a pleasure being with you. I love you, and you know it from way back when.
Back to the wrestling days. We didn't even get into that. We grew up watching me wrestle, but nevertheless, more important to me is that we are brothers in the Lord,
yes, sir.
Serving in the same army,
love it.
And fighting the same fight.
Amen.
So God bless you. God bless you.
you.
Thank you. Tune in again for another episode of Man Up with Nikita Koloff.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Man Up Show. For more content, please visit us at www.morningstartv.com.
Hello, I'm Chris Reed, and I want to tell you about the upcoming New Era Conference. ERA being an acronym for Education Reformation Association. It's here at Morningstar here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and it'll be June 26th through the 28th. I'll be speaking, Rick Joyner will be speaking, Chuck Pierce is going to be speaking as well. We have a vision to empower Christian educators and administrators. If you feel called to education in any area, if you want to train and disciple the next generation, or you want to start a kingdom school of any kind or homeschooling, or a church Christian school, or you desire to work with like-minded reformers, then I'm putting out a call for you. The information for this conference is at the bottom of your screen. Just go to mstarevents.com, and I really hope to see you there.